Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. I'm your host, Blythe Brumleve, and we are proudly sponsored by SPI Logistics. And on this episode, we have another fantastic conversation for you today at Manifest the Future of Supply Chain and Logistics. We have GeoPostCodes, which is new to me. It's obviously not new because they're a global company. But Simon, welcome into the show. Please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the company.
Thank you, Blythe. Great to be here. So GeoPostCodes is a location data provider. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary last year. And you want me to start by myself or by the
sure,
company?
yeah, please. How did you get into this business?
Yeah, so I'm an engineer by training. So I got into business. I started my career in software engineering, and then I moved to IT consulting with Accenture. But I always wanted to basically grow a tech company. And so I did a couple of years as a CTO at a Belgian tech company in big data analytics. And then it was time for me to basically find my own tech company. And I was looking for something that already existed, but I had potential to grow. And that was GeoPostCodes, right? And so I started, I met the founder of GeoPostCode in 2019. And then we immediately hit it off. I mean, it was very clear that he was kind of the genius creator, and I was more like the scale guy. And so, and I basically bought the company from him in 2020, in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was interesting. Try to do the leverage buyout in the middle of a global financial crisis. It's always a fun moment to do that.
A little challenging.
But you know, what was interesting is I think we're not the only one in logistics. We were doing really well in COVID. Our sales were going really well because everybody was focusing. A lot of companies actually got a lot done during COVID, and we were one of those, right? And so yeah, so I've been the CEO for 5 years now. Been growing quite fast. We're lucky to have a very broad customer base, mostly Fortune 500 companies, 60% in the US, and a lot of them have been with us for a decade.
Wow.
So it's really cool.
And from like a high level perspective, what does GeoPostCodes provide?
So GeoPostCode we really bring location data to most of your use cases. And I'll try to summarize the product. You have to imagine that we have every single country on the planet. We have every single administrative division, and that's actually quite complicated. I mean, US doesn't always realize that, but the world is extremely diverse. We have every single city, every single neighborhood. For 80 countries, we have the streets, and we have all of that in one centralized, normalized format, everything geolocated, everything translated, and we have the shapes of everything. So we have the shapes of every postal code, every administrative division on the planet. So that sounds, it's a mouthful, it's a simple product in a sense, but it's extremely powerful, and it takes a lot of data to produce that and keep it up to date. Right? To give you an idea, we source about 1,500 data sources, which means we have about 1,500 data pipelines that are running at any point in time. And we produce about 3 updates per week. And so that's really what our customers are getting with us. Right? They're getting kind of a map of the world, and it fits on a lot of use cases, and we can go into use cases if you want. And so that's basically what we do. So we're very much a geospatial company and a data company. So our people, most of our our team is really like GIS nerds, spending their time in front of a map all day long and using like AI. It was called machine learning before it was called AI. We've been using machine learning for decades to basically build the data sets and improve the quality.
Now, very like 5th grade level question. Why not GPS, or what is the difference maybe between GeoPostCodes and like a GPS location, or
Yeah, it's a good question. So
latitude, longitude?
Yeah, location intelligence is a very broad market. There's players like that, like here, who's here, and there's many different use cases, right? We can talk, logistics, we talk a lot about tracking and GPS. So it's very much about knowing, okay, where is my asset, right? Where is my container? Where is my truck? Very important. We're not actually in that space. We're in the space where is where? Meaning, look at my city. I come from Brussels. So where is Brussels? Oh, it's in Belgium. Where exactly? What region? And how is it spelled? Brussels is the English name. Actually, it also has a French name. My country has 2 languages, so it has a Dutch name as well. So are you going to recognize the city name if I say Bruxelles or Brussels? So being able to have a clear map of the world, before you start tracking GPS coordinates, you get lat longitude, okay. But usually a lot of our customers, for example, they use us for geofencing. They have the latitude and longitude of their truck, but they'd like to know what postal area is it? What city is it in? And that translation requires an actual correct map of the world. And it sounds simple if you do it just for US because you live in one of the countries where you have like the highest data quality on the planet. And there's it's about 10 to 15 countries, with what we name like Canada or Australia or UK. But what about the 235 other countries on the planet where you don't have that? Where if you were operating in Belgium, you would like to know, okay, my truck, in what region is it and what province is it? So that's why you need us to translate. We do have latitude and longitude, but our data is fixed, right? It's the latitude and longitude of Las Vegas. It's the shape of Las Vegas. It's the postal code of Las Vegas. So that's what we provide, and you need both to actually make sense of the data.
And so are you sourcing it? You mentioned thousands of different data sources that you're working with. What about some of the other, I read in one of your press releases that there's challenging countries such as China, Brazil, Russia, and the United Kingdom. What makes these countries challenging to find that data source?
Yep. So just maybe to start with the data sources, you have to imagine that every postal operator on the planet is one of the data sources. Every National Geographic Institute, a lot of the landmark institutes. So we really go very deep looking for sources. A lot of them are public, but need a lot of work to be usable. And we double check even with text of law, right? So when Australia merged 10 administrative divisions into one, which is something that's always happening somewhere on the planet, we get, our sources tell us, oh, something's changed, and then we double check. We actually go to the text of law, say, just make sure that we understand this change well, because once we deploy it to our customers, that's one of the values we bring, right? Really like the checking, the double checking. So to your point, yes, a lot of our customers have trouble finding right data because they find data for easy countries like the US, and then they go to more complex countries and say, we can't find good sources of data. So we really are we have a team that's constantly doing data watch, it's constantly monitoring new sources, a lot of the public sources, a lot of inferred sources. And so we're constantly been, and we've been doing this for 15 years. So we also have one thing that people don't know is public data also disappears. Meaning the government might be publishing it, and then one day, out of the blue, 6 months later, the data's gone. And so it's public, but it's not available anymore. We have 15 years of built-up data, so it also allows us to really triangulate some missing points of the data and really enrich it. Because typically you need 5 data sources for a country. If you have an easy country like the US, you maybe with 1 or 2, you might have enough. But even a country like Portugal, we were having to match a good data source for for urban, and another one for rural areas. And we need to mix both to get good quality data.
Because a lot of, especially in South America, just road construction in general is rapidly evolving.
Yes, so that's a good point. So the data changes faster than people think. A lot of countries have also micro postal code system, like Canada, UK, Netherlands, Israel. So they have a postal code that's the size of a street or a street corner. So that has 2 consequences. First of all, there's not thousands of them, there's millions of them, and they change not every couple of months, but every couple of weeks.
Wow.
Right, so there your update rate is much faster.
And so what are some of the use cases for a lot of your customers? Once they buy this data set, it's consistently updated, they just plug it into maybe an API connection into their tech stack?
That's a good question. So they plug it into the tech stack. So one of the things we do is we bring the expertise with the data, right? So you work with us, you will get top experts that will deploy that with you, because it's not always easy, and we're specialists in those use cases. So we've done them multiple times. Some of our customers, it's the first time they do it. So that assistance is important because we kind of know the roadblocks and how you set us up for success. Then you look at use cases. We have, I would say, 3 families of customers. We have data partnerships, like people like Locate are partners with us. We provide the data they use in some of the API calls. We have product builders, people that build products on top of our data, and then we have people that use it internally, right? So it all fits into the infrastructure. And so one product use case would be Carbon Care. So Carbon Care joined us as a customer last year, and they do, as you can imagine, carbon computation, which is a big topic in logistics. For them to do that accurately, they actually need to measure the distances correctly, and there's some countries where they couldn't source the data. Right, so I think we work with them on Turkey, maybe China, and so being sure, what are this? Well, now it's getting a bit technical, but the lat long of the center of the postal code. That's typically how you work with carbon emissions. You just want an approximate distance as the crow flies for many use cases. You just want to see what's the distance between that postal area and that postal area. So that's one use case. Another use case, one of our big customers is DB Schenker, who's a big sponsor last year. and they do a couple of things with us. They do visualization. So when they're showing their delivery areas to their own teams and their customers, actually putting that on a map and having all the postal areas clearly marked or all the administrative divisions clearly marked makes it much easier to communicate to their customers. They also do postal code validation, and I mean, we have some testimonials on our website. It's 300 times faster doing it with us than basically having a clutch of solutions that are taped together, and that's not audited because our data is constantly audited, it's constantly verified, so they get much better quality than if they do this in-house.
So it's not as simple as just buying a data set and integrating into your software provider, and then you can kind of wipe your hands and you're done.
No. You typically have to understand what you're doing, and use cases there are some hidden complexities in use cases that our customers don't always think about. For example, we work with MSC. MSC is also one of our large customers. They were designing their terminal interfaces to ship containers from point A to point B, but it's worldwide, right? And so they're quite advanced because in the terminal they have the two languages. They will say, okay, I will have the language, I will have the English version of the addresses, but I will also have the local version. Maybe it's in Greek. Maybe the terminal operator is in Greece and they're speaking Greek to the customer, and you have the Greek alphabet there. But the person who's going to receive the order also needs to be able to read it. They might not read Greek alphabet, so they might want the English version next to it. That's one of the things we do. We do the translation. I gave you the example of my city, Brussels. You will get Brussels in the local language and in English for internalization purposes. So it's one of the things we provide, and telling our customers upfront, have you thought about the language issue? How are you looking at this? How are you going to manage your interfaces? Your Chinese colleagues might want to see the address in Chinese. So how are you going to do this? We have all the data to do it, but you need to provide in your solution, you need to build it into it.
So you had mentioned earlier that 60% of your customers are US based. I'm just curious if there's any sort of location information that's unique to the United States versus the rest of the world.
Yes, there's. One of the things USPS does is when a postal code has several cities or several localities, they designate a primary one. It's okay, there's many localities associated with postal code, but we, USPS, formally decide this is the core one. That's a concept that does not exist in the rest of the world. And we know this because when we worked, and I think Expeditors is one of our customers, and Expeditors worked with us on that. They said, oh, we need this for the rest of the world. And we said, yeah, it doesn't exist. So yeah, but we need it anyway, and this is a good example of the complexities, because our TMS system requires it. The field is mandatory, otherwise it won't work. So okay, and this is a good example of how we collaborate with customers. Okay, we will find a solution for you. We have the technology and the knowledge to run the heuristics worldwide, to basically find the primary city worldwide. It's not a formal concept, but we can use heuristics to approximate the primary city for every postal code. And that's something we developed, I think, 5 years ago with them, and it's now part of our standard product. So it's funny that we have primary cities, which is a US concept, exported to the rest of the world because it's a useful concept.
Wow, maybe we are doing a couple things right.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, US has fantastic data, so it's a well-run country.
So what are some other maybe important things that you think are important to mention that we haven't already talked about with GeoPostCodes?
I think two things maybe is first is to understand, well, three things, let's put it this way. A couple of things why you should consider working with us. First, location data, as I described it, just having a correct understanding of the world, it's an extremely complex problem. And when I'm in the logistics sector, I usually don't need to explain that because people know, they feel the pain. But just don't do it yourself, right? If you're doing a couple of countries, that's fine. But as soon as you go more than 15 countries, you probably want to work with a player like us, right? You don't want to do all this in-house. It's just too complicated. That's one thing. The other thing would be we really specialize in logistics in the sense that we have been building for over 5 years, actually 6 years now, a logistics-specific data set. So we have a data set that is more plug and play, as you say, because it solves all the things. I don't want to go too much in detail because it can get technical. But to give you an idea, other freights, ocean freights, or railroad will know UNLO codes, which is a public data set. It's very much used in freight work. But actually, unfortunately, the public source is actually not of very high quality. So we have actually an enhanced version where all the problems are solved. It also connects to the postal code, so you want to do intermodal transport, it's all fixed. So the whole package of data sets that you need to do correct addressing, correct shipping, whether it's for what do you call it, tariffs for whether you want to do your rate cards, or you want to just correctly do intermodal, or do you want to do carbon compensation. We have all of that basically out of the box and ready to integrate with your system. And we have a team that's done it many times. Right?
Wow. So what is the scope of your team? It sounds like it's massive.
Oh no, I think this year we're recruiting a lot right now. I guess we must be around 35 now. And
35 people?
Yeah.
That's it. All of them are managing all of this information? Wow.
Yeah, so we have, but a big part of our team is we have a very small commercial team. Actually, most of our team is actually, like I said, products and customer facing. Because we have a lot of big customers and we work on complex cases.
Well, that's amazing. So you are also, last couple questions I have here, making a big announcement at Manifest. I believe maybe the press release dropped today. Can you share some of that insight with us?
It is about the logistic data suite. One element we added this year is port terminals. So to complement your codes, and again, I'm sorry I'm going technical there, it's your codes are only that granular because they tell you, for example, Brussels is a good example as well. So it has one UNLO code for the ports, the railroads, the trucking terminal, and the airports, which is a bit laughable for people living in Brussels because those are completely unrelated places, have nothing to do with each other, but just one UNLO code. So it shows that you actually do need to go one level more granular. And when it comes to ports, we've actually released, again, an enhanced data set that gives you much more structured, normalized information about the capabilities of each port, which is important because when you're planning basically your shipping, you want to know what terminal has the capabilities I need. Is this a cold terminal? Is this a deep terminal? Can I ship that kind of ship towards? What kind of K is this? And so we have all that information, again, normalized, just to take that work away from people like MSC or freight forwarders that need that data anyway. And otherwise they have in-house teams trying to build that data and clean it themselves. It scales much better if you do it with us.
Absolutely. It sounds like a massive problem that they would have to undertake. And so why not just go to somebody
It's not a sexy problem, by the way. It's a boring problem, but we have people working on that every day. So our customers don't have to.
But that's what I love about this industry, supply chain, global logistics, is that it's one of those things, every time you peel back a layer on the onion, there's so many more layers that are there to discover. And this was a conversation that was something that I had no idea about, and now I have, hopefully the audience will find it as valuable as well, because this sounds like something that every tech provider in the United States logistics companies needs, and maybe global as well.
Yeah, everybody who's going abroad probably should think about us.
Yes, absolutely. Well, where can folks get in touch with you, get in touch with GeoPostCodes?
Yeah, just our website is geopostcodes.com. We're easy to find. You can reach out, either to me, I don't know if there's any details that are going to be shared, or directly to our teams, and we'd be very happy to help you and just also meet you and hear, if you don't want to work with us today, it's fine, but maybe a couple of years down the road. It's great to meet people in the logistics industry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Blythe.